Estate for Real with Eric Pettigo. That's me. I'm doing a solo episode just for a few reasons. One, I said I'm going to try to get more episodes out there. This is going to be one of the ways I have to do it. It's just because I had a little bit of time and I've been wanting to kind of hop on here and do a solo episode. I obviously want to keep booking guests to come on and having real estate friends on and people around the industry. I want to keep doing that for sure, but I want to be able to also get these out as I can. So this one is going to, I guess, live up to the name of the show, which is Real Estate for Real. And my whole goal in doing all of this and the online stuff that I do with TikTok is to I guess talk about what it's really like doing this job, because we see on TV how it's kind of portrayed, and everybody in the business knows that that's so far from true. But then the people getting into the business, I feel like, have an idea in their minds of how it's going to be, and to no fault of their own, but it doesn't line up once you actually get into the business. I mean, I know that's how it was for me too. I got in because I enjoyed looking at houses when we were selling our house and trying to buy a new one. And I've been over this a few times before, but it was like a 2-year process, and we looked at a lot of houses. And poor, sweet Linda Nelson, we drug through 2 years of looking at houses and trying to get ours sold. But it was during that time where I was like, I think I want to get into real estate. I enjoyed that part of it a lot. I did not understand what the job really was. So one of the reasons I wanted to start doing this. And so as you guys know, if you are regular listeners, at the end of last year, once Jace got licensed, Jace, my son, we formed the Pettigo team, and we've added on a few more members. We've got Chase Martin and we've got Felix and Wajay, and both of them are, in their first years doing this, are they're making good strides. They're getting stuff done. They're picking some things up, and bright futures ahead for both of them. And then on top of that, my wife Amanda has been helping out a lot too with the office work and helping us with our social media and the things you see now that we're putting out with the open houses and the just listed and all that stuff. That's all her, and she does a fantastic job. And so what that's been like for me with the formation of a new team, because I've always been a solo agent, and that's everything, right? Like I've never been on a team. I've always been on my own. So that's all my own showings, all my own listings, all my own office work, me, which is how I liked it for that amount of time. But when it was like, all right, let's build a team, let's take this to the next level. And so far it has been great. This is the busiest year I have ever had in this my 13th year, and you will never hear me complain about it, because this is what I signed up for. And I know realtors a lot talk about how busy they are, and it's not a lie. It's not wrong. We stay very, very busy. We are on call basically all hours of the day. And again, it's kind of what we signed up for, and it beats the alternative. So whenever I'm talking to somebody and they're going, "Oh, how's things going?" I'm like, I'm just really busy. I've got, but I don't want it to come off like that I'm ungrateful or that I'm burdened by it, because I know the alternative is my phone isn't ringing. And that is so much more stressful than your phone ringing nonstop. And so I'll take this over the alternative any day. However, I'm still human, and we all are, and sometimes we need breaks, and sometimes we need a little mental reset, and sometimes we get burnt out, and that happens. So for me, I don't think I've reached burnout by any means, but man, there were some times, and it was just recently where I remember I said to Amanda, I said, I think I just need a little break. I just need to catch my breath. And we did. We took our other two kids, Jersey and Braylon, and we went up to Wisconsin for just like basically, I don't know, a day and a half, like 2 days but still, even that small little amount of time was such a good recharge that I feel a lot better. And so that's the goal is now anytime maybe where we have a day or two or something where we can just kind of sneak away for a little bit, I want to try to do it because, man, it made my brain feel better. But so far this year, like I said, this has been my busiest year personally. And then, the guys are making sales too. And team leads out there, I commend you because I'm seeing how difficult it is to be in that position where you have your own stuff going on and you didn't get to where you were at without having sustained a pretty high level of business. So then you bring in agents that are working under you, and now their deals are your deals until they get to the point where, they only really call you if things start getting bad and they need some help. But as newer agents, you kind of have to be there for every step of every transaction, and that's the way it should be. And if you can't be, then you probably shouldn't have new agents working with you. And it's a lot. And I get it. And so I sympathize because now I'm going through it. And again, this is not a complaint. This is just the reality of what's happening. And it's keeping me very busy. And so I kind of wanted to talk about a few things just up because we're about halfway through the year. Now we're right up at the end of June. So we're literally at like the halfway point of the year. And some of the experiences so far this year that I've had and that the team's had and that we've been going through, I wanted to kind of share part of them. And I do want to say before I get going that everyone that I've talked to right now, because agents, we talk, we say, hey, normal question, you staying busy? How's business? How are things going? And so many agents that I've talked to are saying like their head's spinning. This is the time of year. Things are going crazy right now. It's like we can't clone ourselves. We need to be multiple places at once. And I feel like it's important because it's not just us. It's our friends in the lending industry. It's our inspectors. It's our contractors. It's our appraiser friends. I mean that. We have friends who are appraisers. Don't forget. But everybody is spread very thin right now. So it is, I think, super important to, on one hand, give each other some grace because there's a lot going on. We've all got a lot going on. We try our best to make sure nothing slips through the cracks and that we are on top of every situation and that we are responding to every text and every phone call in a timely fashion. But it can be hard and it can be a lot. So we have to keep in mind that we're all kind of dealing with the same stuff right now and to extend a little bit of grace if we can. Like, I get it, right? Sometimes it gets to a point where it's like, okay, hey man, enough is enough. I need you to do something here. But a lot of the times it's just there's a lot going on right now. So I don't know. I feel like we can all be a little bit on edge times like this. And so when we're all wound kind of tight and we have we're spinning a lot of plates, I guess is the saying, it can be easy to get a little more agitated if you don't feel somebody else is kind of holding up their end. And so just a quick reminder that more than likely whoever that is has a bunch going on right now too, and they're more than likely trying their best. So a little bit of grace, for what is reasonable. All right. Earlier in the year we had it was actually Felix on our team, and I think I may have talked about this a little bit on here, but just to share some of the real experiences of real estate. He had a listing kind of out of it was in Litchfield, so it's not out of our area because it's really not that far. Like there's some crossover there. There's another MLS that serves that area as well as ours, and it makes it kind of tricky, which is weird, right? Because I feel like our MLS somehow spans hours away, but then 30 minutes on 55 south to Litchfield, and that's like a whole nother universe. But Felix gets a listing there. We throw it on the market. We immediately have some interest. There was an agent there, and there was an agent there who went directly to the sellers right after we were on the market and tells them to basically cancel his contract with us and let this agent buy it themselves. And then that way he won't have to pay any commission, and that agent would just buy it. So immediately goes right to our seller and says, cancel that contract. Let me just buy it. No commission. That happened. Right. And this is a young guy. The seller was a young guy, didn't know any better. And so was just like, hey, I want to cancel our contract. And Felix, it was his first listing. So he's like, oh man, this sucks. Looks like we're canceling the contract. And so then that's one of those things where I kind of had to step in and go, no, we're not canceling the contract. You can't, for one, you do not ever reach out to a seller directly as another agent when they're already under contract and on the market with somebody and tell them to cancel their contract. Holy cow. I did not turn this agent in. I could have. I maybe should have. I did not. But I did let everybody know that will not be happening. And then we went ahead and we got that house under contract with somebody else. But the thing about that was it was another agent from that area who brought in a buyer, and their contracts are different than ours. And so when reading through them, they don't have the separate inspection addenda like we do. Addendums. Does anybody really know plural of addendum? I think it's addenda. Anyhow, they don't have those. It's just built into the contract that, hey, within this time frame, buyer can do whatever inspections they want. And then they can just cancel the contract if they don't like it, or they can ask you to fix it or whatever. And we had multiple offers on this thing. And so we go back to everybody who made offers and said, hey, what inspections are you going to do? Because this matters. We had, 3 or 4 offers. They were all very close. And this matters. What inspections are we going to do here? And the people who got it, that agent said to us, oh, we're not going to do any inspections. I said, awesome. The contract allows them to, but there was no box to check on that contract of yes, we will, no, we won't. It just says you can. And so I talked to the agent. This agent said, we're not doing any. All right, sweet. You got it. We get our contract signed, and it's a couple days later. I get a text that's saying, hey, can we get a code for the inspector? They want to come do an inspection. And I said, wait a minute. We're not doing inspections, remember? And this agent said, well, now the buyer wants to do one. And there was nothing we could do because the contract allowed it. It didn't matter that she told us, or that this agent told us. I didn't want to give away too much info, that they weren't doing an inspection. This contract allowed it. So one of those where it's like, okay. And we ended up having to like knock some off the price for stuff they found on the inspection. I mean, it was a whole big thing. But the two takeaways for me on that front, I mean, as an agent, I value my word. When it comes to working with other agents, like what I tell you, I will stick by. I would never ever say, hey, we're not doing inspections, and then get a contract signed and then say, just kidding, we are. But as a listing agent, I should have got something in writing, and I didn't. And so that's a lesson learned for me, because we have conversations with people and other agents, and they can be very friendly, and you're like, yeah, that's a solid person. We're cool, right? We're pretty much buddies. When we talk to each other, it's like most of us, because we're all in the same industry, and we know that anybody outside of it doesn't really understand. So it's like we feel like we can talk to each other. And then you establish these connections, and then there's like a certain level of trust that gets built up. And hi, sweetie. Hi. My daughter's walking downstairs. Huh? I'm doing a podcast. Yeah. Oh. Oh. All right. You are. You're always a part of something. That was my daughter. But what I was saying is, you almost can't help but to trust the word of your colleagues in the industry. So when they tell you something, it's like, yeah, thanks. All right. I appreciate it, because I know if I say that to somebody that's as good as getting it in writing. So my fault for having too much trust, instead of saying, okay, cool, put that in writing. I don't care if your contract allows for it or not. We want it in writing. And I didn't do that. So lesson learned on that front. Either way, I mean, we closed. It's in the past. We've moved on. Everybody's happy. Another thing that has happened this year that was absolutely wild for me was there was a point where I had 3 houses under contract where I was the buyer's agent. I had 3 of them under contract at the same exact time that I had not stepped foot in. And they all closed. Now, I eventually stepped foot in them, but just like crazy scenarios that you would never think, but one of them was a pretty normal. I have buyers who went through an open house and literally called me from the yard outside and said, we want this house, write us up a contract like now. So I did, and we got it. And, but I had never stepped foot in it. I drew it up. That's what they wanted. So I did. I wasn't going to go, hold on, I'm not drawing anything up until I see it. Like, no, they were like, get the paperwork ready. We want this house. And we got it for them. So that was one. Another one was a little bit different. I had clients who knew of a house They like knew of a seller. I don't know if they had mutual friends of somebody who was going to be selling a house. And they went, and they didn't tell me they were going. And I know realtors, you can all relate to this, where you have a client that will just call you up and say, hey, so I went and looked at this house, and we're going, oh, what? Hold on. What do you mean? And so that was this. We went and looked at this house that these people are going to sell. It's friend of a friend. It's right where we want to be. It's the size we want. And this is a hard to find type of house. They haven't listed it yet. They're going to list it with fill in the blank. So they knew the agent that these people were going to list with. Okay. So I call that agent and I let that agent know, hey, I've got buyers who just went through a house that you are about to list. And this agent was like, oh my gosh. Okay. Now it wasn't coming soon. It was nothing like that. No rules were broken. And so they wanted to buy it. They wanted me to draw up an offer and send it over. So I did. And they accepted it. And thankfully, we didn't get cut out as agents, which we all know can happen and does happen quite often, but we did not. They both elected to still work with their agents and get this thing done. And so, and again, this is happening. This is simultaneous with the first story I told you about. So now here's two that I have under contract that I had never seen. Here's the third one. This one's a little bit weird. I had buyers, friend of a friend, knew of a house that was going to be up for sale. They go and look at it. And initially, they're not blown away. They're moving here from somewhat out of the area. So they go, they look. It's a nice place, but they're not sure what they think. So they want to keep just searching. So I decided not to turn my phone off for this. So we keep searching, and this house ends up going on as a coming soon listing. So now it's in the MLS, coming soon. We're still looking at other houses. They decide after we see a few, actually, we think we like that one, that first one, that is now coming soon. So what do? Because you can't show it to us. It's coming soon, you know. So now we're going to wait for it to hit the market so we can go see it again and then write an offer and compete with everybody else. I said, well, we can write an offer now and send it over. And here's the thing. As agents, I mean, we know if an offer comes in by law, that offer has to be submitted. It doesn't matter if it's coming soon listing. If an offer comes in, you have to submit it to your seller. So knowing that, we drew up a really strong offer and sent it over. And I called the agent and I said to the agent, we're sending you an offer on this. I want to let you know that my buyers have looked at this house. However, this was before you were coming soon. They knew it was going to hit the market. They have mutual friends. They were able to see it before. And so the sellers get the offer and see who's on the other side of it. And I think there was maybe a small counter back and forth, but they ended up accepting it. So now at this point, I have 3 houses under contract, and I haven't seen any of them personally. So then eventually, I mean, while we're under contract, as time goes on, I do go and I see these houses, and they're good houses, and we closed on all of them. But it was just crazy to me that I had 3 houses under contract that I'd never stepped foot in. It was weird. Now, there were, let me think. There was a closing that happened. It was actually ended up being one of those. And this is one of those things in real estate that you close and a call you never want to get after closing. There was like tree roots in the sewer, and there was backup, and a lot of money had to be spent to get it right. So we're still sorting our way through that. But as realtors, we get those calls, and it's like, oh, shoot, what do you do? But it was, I think maybe that same day or a few days before, I had another situation where I was helping a lady buy a house. It was a duplex, and the night before closing, there was big rain. I mean, you guys know we've been getting a ton of rain lately. And I got a call from the listing agent, and I think she listens, so she knows who she is, and she's awesome, and she's a great friend. But the night before, I got a call saying, hey, they found a little bit of water in like the unfinished part of this basement, and then it's a little bit damp in like the hallway that goes into the main living area of the basement. But it's an issue maybe with the sump pump, and that's fixed and everything. Like we should be good. So we go over there the next morning, bright and early, for a walkthrough, and it seemed good. Everything seemed good. Like, we were walking around, water was gone. So we close. And then I get a call that night that all of a sudden, all of the carpet in the basement is like completely saturated, except for one spot in the middle. And it was this, like, we're still trying to figure out how this happened, because we were there. There was no more rain. But somehow more water was able to kind of like seep its way in. And mind you, this is not an older house. It is relatively new construction. There has never been water in this basement. And we were there that morning, and it was okay. And so my wife and I literally at 10 o'clock at night load up our dehumidifier, load up the fans that we have, and we head out to this house to help our client dry this basement out the best we can. And again, that's one of those things. We're still kind of sorting that out and trying to get all that figured out. But it's the real part of real estate is dealing with that kind of stuff. You know, it's not just Instagram pictures and vacations and doing speed tours of luxury homes. It's this kind of stuff that you close, but it doesn't end. And I always tell my clients at closing, like, I'm your realtor forever. So I know we're closing, but anything you need at all, you call me. And a lot do for things. And I want them to, right? I don't want to just never hear from them again. It is an interesting industry. I don't know if anybody's I don't know how much business you guys have done down in Sunset Lake, Girard, but I've closed on a couple down there in the last year. And just a little heads up, the septic issues there can be tricky, right? The association requires a passing septic inspection before they'll transfer over lake lease from one owner to another. Now, that doesn't mean that the septic system has to be functional. It means that it has to be up to code, to current modern code. Well, a lot of those aren't. There are some older houses out there, and the septic is working just fine, but not necessarily up to current standards. And so they will require full replacement of these systems. And so if you end up doing some deals down there, I'm 2 for 2 in the last year, 2 closings, Sunset Lake, both of them needing new septic installations. And the way that has to work, if you haven't dealt with that before, you have to get the bid from the septic. First, good luck. You need to find a septic company that's willing to come do an installation and that can do it in any sort of timely fashion. good luck. But once you do find that, they give you the bid. Well, now the seller has to, out of the proceeds, set aside 1.5 times that amount, right? So, for instance, we had a bid for a $30,000 septic system. Sellers had to put $45,000 in escrow to cover that amount after closing for when the install happens. And then, assuming the install really only takes that 30 grand, once that gets paid out, the sellers get the remaining 15. Well, here's something we didn't see coming. The buyers of this property, because it was my listing, the buyers of this property had still, like to this point, and we are almost at a year, had not scheduled the septic installation. And so I've repeatedly said, hey, are you going to get this done? Are you going to get this done? Because my sellers still have like 15 grand hanging around there that they would very much like to have back. And I don't blame them. And so I think now finally it's getting done, but you don't really realize at that point that you're a little bit at the mercy of the new owners to hold up their part after closing. And so that's something that we're dealing with now, where it's like a year later almost, and this still hasn't been done. I've talked to the septic guy. He's like, I'm just waiting for the call. And so on our end, it's like, well, I'm a little bit powerless here. And so what do I tell my clients? That I'm trying, I'm trying to get this money back to you. But we need these people to schedule this install, and then it needs to actually take place and get paid out so that you get your money that's been sitting there for a year. So that's another very real part of this kind of stuff, that it's just one of the things we're dealing with. I had a, you can see me, I'm rubbing my temples. I had another one where thankfully, we closed and figured it out, but guys, deadlines are so important in our contracts, in our agreements, in our inspections. And one thing I always do, whether I'm dealing with seller or buyer, is when I'm going through the buyer inspection addendum, I go over how it works. And how it works is this. You have X amount of time to get your inspection completed, and you fill in that date. And these days, the way inspectors are booked out, if you're putting 10 days in that time frame, you might be in trouble. I mean, I'm doing at least 15 now to give them time to get over there, maybe even 21 if it's like a 45-day close, just to give them a little extra breathing room. But you fill in that blank, the inspection has to happen within that amount of time. If it doesn't, guess what? The buyer agrees to purchase the property as is. That's that. That's what it says. The agreement says the buyer then agrees to purchase the property as is if they don't get their inspection done in time. Assuming they do, they have 5 days from the date of the inspection to request repairs. 5 days. So that means inspection happens Wednesday, Thursday is day one, right? And it doesn't matter when you get the inspection report back, which is a mistake people make. They go, well, we didn't get the report back for 3 days, so that's when 5 days starts. No. It's from the date of inspection. And I make sure my clients understand this on the front end. And then as a seller, if you receive the repair request within 5 days, right? Because if they don't submit it within 5 days, then guess what? They agree to buy the house as is with no repairs. But assuming you get it within 5 days as a seller, you now have 5 days to respond from receiving those requests. And if you miss that 5 days, that means as a seller, you have agreed to make all repairs, and this part is important, as requested by buyer, right? So that means you don't get to haggle back and forth on, yeah, well, you might have asked for a licensed plumber, but, you know, I've got some tools out in the garage. I'll get down there and fix it. Nope. If the buyer asked for a licensed plumber, guess who's doing that repair? Licensed plumber, as requested by buyer. So I had a situation where we got our inspection done. I was representing the buyers. We submitted our repair requests 2 or 3 days after the inspection. And I always send a text to, hey, just sent that over just so you see it, right? Like, just give you a heads up. It's in your inbox. For one, I want to make sure you see it. For two, I want to make sure it went through. I don't always trust technology. So, an agent might be like, hey, you going to respond to that repair request? And an agent says, I never got it. So you got to make sure that they received it. So I always say, sent you a repair request. Then we're waiting. No response. On day 5, and this is the day we're supposed to hear back. And my buyers know this because we've gone over it. And they know what it means if we don't hear back. And so we talk. We get on the phone. It's okay, there's a few different ways this can work. One, we just let the day run out, see what happens. If they respond, cool. If they don't respond, we tell them, hey, you missed your deadline. Now you got to fix everything. But in my experience, that's not going to be met with a, you got it. We'll do it. My experience says that there's going to be some pushback. So let's think about maybe sending a reminder. Right? Just to make this go smoother. Let's maybe say, hey, just a heads up, this is day 5. So please get us something. Now, on the flip side of this, if I am the listing agent and an inspection happens and 5 days later I still haven't received a repair addendum, I am not going to recommend to my seller that we send a reminder to ask for repairs. I'm not. But in this instance, as a buyer's agent, submitting the repair addendum to the seller, I'm thinking it's not a bad idea to say, hey, just a heads up, today's the day that you need to respond. And that's what we did. We sent a reminder. Say, hey, are we going to get a response? And the answer I got was, it'll be a few days before we can meet up. And then my response to that was, yeah, but today's day 5, so we need a response today. The agent says, okay, I understand. We don't get a response. In fact, day 6 happens, no response. Day 7, no response. At that point, I did fire off, I think, another email saying, hey, just FYI, we are assuming that everything's going to be fixed, as is our agreement. Day 8, no response. Day 9, we get a response saying that some of the things will be done, but not all. And so we of course didn't accept that. It got a little contentious. We figured it out. We went and closed, but it's like we can avoid all that. And here's the thing. Everyone is responsible for, as adults, for reading contracts that they sign. If somebody sticks something in front of my face for me to actually sign, I'm going to read it. I'm gonna read through it. I'm gonna have an idea of what I'm signing. Every responsible adult is, they're expected to do that. But in reality, as real estate agents, it is our job to make sure our clients understand the little intricacies of our agreements, right? Because even if you're going through them in the moment, if it's a 20 to 25 page document and we're going through there, and as agents, we can recite this stuff in our sleep because we deal with it every day, and we have our spiel that we run through, and we cover each thing the same each time. And I'm hoping you guys do this with your clients. I'm hoping you guys actually go over the contracts and don't just send it over and say, just e-sign this, please. Like, we still need to take time to go over what they're signing. So, when we're doing this, you can see, if you look at your clients on about, I don't know, page 8, page 9, and their eyes are starting to gloss over a little bit, and you can tell that the things you're saying are just bouncing off of them. That's normal, but it's important as the process unfolds in real time that you're maintaining that contact with them and explaining again, hey, remember, we talked about this. We need to do this by this time. Hey, remember, like, that part's important. And so we can't expect our clients to be as familiar with our contracts as we are. So it's our job. Keep them up to speed. What else has gone on this year? It's been a wild one. Now that I'll keep to myself. I'm learning a little bit now about manufactured homes too, because that's a tricky one, and like detitling and stuff like that. And that can be kind of a mess and tough to deal with. And what's very important, I'm learning, is to have a good lender you can trust. And this is another deal for Felix. Poor Felix is getting some good ones. And I want to shout out Dawn Sunley on the other side, who's doing a fantastic job. But we have buyers for this manufactured home, and the lender, because our buyer was from out of state and was using a lender from out of state. And I'm talking a little bit with this lender, and there's some issues with the title and getting things done the way that the lender requires, and it doesn't work like that here, and it's a whole big issue. And so I go back to this, to this lender, what's going on? And he tells me, hey, we're good. No worries. We usually do it this way, but apparently that's not how it works here. So we're working around it and we're fine. And that's what I hear. And so as an agent with multiple other things going on that I'm dealing with, that I'm, worried about trying to keep together, when I have a lender tell me we're good, don't worry, we're working it out, everything's fine. When I hear that, I then take that and I move it off my plate of things that I'm worried about, because my plate's already full. And so a couple weeks goes by, and here we are, getting close to closing. And the lender calls back and says, know what? We're not good. Can't do it. Sorry. Maybe find another title company or find a new lender. What do you mean? You said we were good. Like, and it's just one of the many reasons, and we're still working through it. We've got our, again, shout outs to Dawn, set us up with a more local lender that deals with this kind of stuff, that I believe has us all on the right track now. So a delay, obviously, because the original lender dropped a bomb on us like right before closing. They couldn't do it. And so then we had to scramble to get things done. And just the importance of working with a good local lender in getting these things done, I mean, it can just make all the difference in the world. We've got another deal right now. Jace has got a deal going on that's just, the lender has been just tough, right? Tough to get a hold of, tough to get to do things. And like we have enough going on. So it's frustrating when the people that we're working with to like help us get to our goal are not holding up their end. And I know I said extend some grace, and I still mean that, but you guys know as well as I do when you're dealing with some of these like national lenders that it's more than just, oh, sorry, it's just been crazy around here. It's just like the level of care isn't there. They're not in this community. You know what I mean? Their billboards aren't up around town. They don't have an office you can walk into. It just doesn't mean the same. So please work with your local lenders. I guess that's about all I have. I mean, there's some other stuff that obviously we have going on that we're kind of dealing with and working through. And, but we all do. I'd like to hear your stories too. If anybody wants to come on and talk about how their year has been going so far, I would be more than happy to have you. I believe, Jace is out of town right now, but I think next week, I think he's finally going to jump on a podcast. It's my Father's Day present from him is to do a podcast with me. So I think we're going to hop on next week and do one. So I'm really looking forward to that. I wouldn't mind doing one with the whole team, kind of a meet the team podcast. So, but I don't want to force that on the guys. They've got enough going on. I still really want, it's looking bleak, but I still really, really want to do a podcast with the founders of our company. And, we thought we had it pinned down and everybody kind of had agreed to do it. And then some things came up like they do. And we just haven't had time to even talk about rescheduling. So I don't know. I wanted to do a live one where everybody could come sit and listen and ask questions. I mean, how cool would that be, right? Like if that's something you would be interested in, put a little pressure on on some of these agents who are going to jump on and do it with me. Yeah, help me out. I'll recruit you to help put some pressure on them. Now, Daryl Davis doesn't need the pressure because he's on board. And so if anybody knows Sam Nichols, and he was on board too. Sam was on board. And Jeff Stell also on board, but reluctantly, but he would do it. And then I wanted to bring in, like Rick Duffy, because even though he wasn't there at the, to like start the company, he came in right after, and it was this whole thing kind of started from a conversation with him. And then, I had Lori Wagner on a little while back, and she jumped in immediately too that first year, and she said she'd be interested in doing something like that. So I want to let these agents tell the story of how this company started, and then I want to hear stories about the early days of it actually happening and how it kind of transformed and grew into what it is now. And so who better to hear those stories than from the agents who were there, who made this all happen, because what we have at the real estate group is incredibly special. I think the agents who work here understand that, right? If you go anywhere else around the country, I don't know what other cities you'll find or areas, I guess. We are Central Illinois, where it's not one of these big national companies, one of these big franchises that dominates the market. And then, like there'll be some mom and pops, some smaller, like local independent, agencies around there, but but they're not the ones dominating that area. It's crazy. It's super special and very unique what we have here with this company. And there's a reason. And it's the agents we have are exceptional. It's a very welcoming environment. And we have the access, the managing brokers we have are, and I know, I think Busher's tried to retire, but everybody still calls him, so you don't get to retire. And of course, Mike O is just fantastic. And so having access to that, having access to all of the agents that we have that work in all the different fields of this business and have just incredible success doing it, and then their willingness to help other people, I just don't think you can find that anywhere. So we are very lucky to be working here at the place we're at, and I hope everybody is having a good year so far, and that you're having all the success you want, and then some. And if you're a newer agent and you're wanting to get there, just you have to keep grinding. It takes a while to go from making phone calls to receiving phone calls, but you have to do it, right? It doesn't happen automatically. I was talking to another agent not long ago, and I'm trying to remember who it was, but I think it might have been Brian Moore when we were on the podcast. Yeah, it probably was. But with both of us, when we started, I mean, I went around and knocked on doors. I knocked on for sale by owners. I did everything I could to talk to as many people as I could about real estate. Everything. I reached out to everybody in my contact list. I sent Facebook messages to anybody who I was Facebook friends with. I did everything I could on the front end to just have conversations and get my face and my name out there. And that's what you have to do when you're starting off. Logan Fraser was one of the first guests I had on, who's obviously a younger agent who's had tremendous success. And I asked him, how did you build this at a young age as a new agent? And he said he did 2 open houses a week for people. He picked up open houses nonstop. It's all about getting in front of people. So that's what you have to do. You can't expect this business to just, to just like hand you anything. You've got to go out there and get it. But then the beauty is once you go out there and start, working those rooms and working those leads and working your sphere of influence, eventually it starts coming back to you, where you get referrals, you get repeat customers, and it makes it a little bit easier. Part of it, anyway. So don't give up. Just stay out there. Don't be scared to go and meet people and to tell them who you are and what you do. You're not going door to door selling stuff. You're not selling timeshares. You're selling houses, and people are looking. Trust me, they want to buy houses. So they just need to know who you are and what you do. And the more people who do, the more people who are going to call you up when they're ready. And then even then, it doesn't matter. You can do it. Like another part of this, and I'm going to wrap this up soon, is you can do this as long as it doesn't. You can be doing this as long as you want, years and years. You're still going to have situations where clients that you've worked with forever end up just going a different direction, and it happens. And you have to just kind of deal with it. And that's a hard thing to deal with. But I was just saying yesterday, it's one of the only businesses where you can see that you've been fired online just by getting on and scrolling around and going, oh, well, I didn't list that house. It looks like somebody else did. I guess I'm fired. But you have to, but you know what? You have to just kind of brush it off, move on. It stings in the moment, but there will be more. And then a good chunk of the people who call you have worked with somebody else at some point and decided to move on for whatever reason. So it's the nature of the business. So a thick skin is a must. Resiliency is a must. Persistence is a must. And I mean, you got to grind. You got to really, really, really keep at it. And then if you become complacent, if you become, I don't know, if you start getting a little too lax and just only counting on your phone ringing, that can be bad too. You kind of have to keep building. And so there's a lot. So anyhow, I've been talking to myself for an hour. I'm going to shut this down. I appreciate you guys listening. And like I said, much success to everybody. Hopefully, I hope you're all having a great year. And I hope the second half, if the first half wasn't great, I hope the second half is. If the first half was great, I hope the second half is even better. And hopefully we can do a deal together, right? Why not? All right. Thanks for tuning in. I will be back next week.